Good morning. Myself, Akilapriyadharshini, from the Department of Civil Engineering, VSB Engineering College, Karur. Today, we are going to see the Unit 3 of Human Values and Ethics, where the scientific values and in this unit, we will understand the scientific thinking and method, inductive and deductive thinking, and proposing and testing hypotheses, validating facts, using evidence-based approach, skepticism and empirism, rationalism and scientific temper. And while coming to scientific values, it is the fundamental principles that conducts the scientific research and interpretation of results, and that will help to reliable and ethical. And the key scientific values are curiosity, empirism, and skepticism, where curiosity is to understand and solve problems and motivate researchers to ask questions and seek new knowledge. And empirism is an observable and measurable evidence that can be observed, tested, and replicated. And skepticism is towards the evidence and claims, and scientists are trying to evaluate and hypothesis before accepting them. And the key values of continued here is with objectivity, transparency, and integrity. And here the objectivity is to aim or conduct a research to find out to the personal bias or influence. And then transparency is about methods, data, and findings, and to evaluate others to replicate and build upon their own research. And in adherence, integrity is to adherence ethical principles that includes the honesty, and the structural integrity includes the fabrication and false application against the plagiarism. And the rigor the application of meticulous through the research with high standards of precision and accuracy. And reproducibility, the ability of other researchers to replicate results and using the same methods, and it strengthens the credibility of scientific findings. And innovation drives the scientific progress by introducing a new perspectives and methods, and the collaboration with working together with other researchers and experience and enhance the research by integrating diverse expertise and perspective. And the scientific thinking method, it is the approach to understand, observe, experiment, analysis, and investigate the question to solve the problems in a logical and empirical manner. And first, when coming to the observation, we can observe, while we are observing, we can identify the problem or questions and noticing something interesting that is unexplained to the natural world. And then question, here we can formulate a clear and question based from the observation, where it can be testable or experimentable, or an observation is made. And hypothesis, here we can develop a tentative explanation based on our question, and further we can examine our experiments for our further observations. And then experimentation, we can design and conduct experiments for our test hypothesis, where we can isolate the various variables and gather data to make the minimizable bias conditions. And then data collection, here we can collect and record the data from our experiments and observations, and ensure the data by various conducted experiments and observations, and analyzes with the data collection and determine the supports, we can statistically and analytically interpret the data. And conclusion, we can draw a conclusion based on the data analysis, and we can next one is communicate and the finalists of reports and papers, and review is done, and then the theory submission and the theory development will be done. And then inductive and deductive thinking. Inductive thinking and deductive thinking of two approaches of scientific, and where we can give different way of moving from the observations or the premises to the conclusions. And inductive thinking, inductive thinking involves the conclusion from specific observations or intents, and it often identifies the patterns and make generalizations based on the limited data. Its process includes the observation, pattern recognition, and generalization. In observation, we can collect the specific data or observation, and pattern recognition identifies the pattern and regularities in the data, and generalization formulates a general conclusion or hypothesis bias pattern condition. questions. And when we go with an example, we can notice the sun has risen in the east every morning for as long as you can remember, and then there is a constant pattern for sun rising in the east. With this we can conclude the sun that will always rise in the east. And the strength or by useful forming of hypotheses and theories and can lead to the insights and discoveries based on the observed data. Limitations: the conclusions are not absolute and they are based on the likelihood, and the observed pattern will continue for the long time, and it may be incorrect if the sample is too small, and the observation will be on a representative type. And deductive thinking start from the general premises or a principle that applying the specific cases to draw a conclusion. And it has the general premises and the specific case, and then the conclusion, where the detective phase will be have the collection of data something. In general premises, they will go with the general principle or statement that is assumed to be true, and then the specific case, apply this principle to the specific situation or a case, and then in a conclusion we can have a conclusion based on the general permission. And we can have an example: all humans are mortal, where the Socrates is a human, and the conclusion, the Socrates is a mortal. And deductive thinking, the strengths of deductive thinking, it provides a conclusion that logically guaranteed. It ensures the reasoning is consistent, and have a limitation that the conclusion depends on the truth of the premises. And comparison of these two deductive thinkings or inductive thinkings are the early stages of scientific approach, and the deductive thinking derived from the inductive thinking. It both derive the specific conditions where it is done by the patterns in the inductive thinking, and it was done in the specific case related activities, and the general theories are made through the experimentation in the deductive thinking. Proposing and testing hypothesis. Proposing or testing hypothesizing are the components of scientific method, discovers new knowledge and validating the existing theories. And it has the first step to identify a problem or a question, where it observes the phenomena of the area of interest where the knowledge is lacking. And suppose when we have a sunny window seems to be grow faster than those in the shaded area, the sunlight affects the plant growth. This question will be identified as a problem, and it is evaluated in a preliminary step. And the second step will be the conduct preliminary research. It has the existing literature to understand where the already known topic is existed or not. Likewise, the research might reveal that the light is known factor in plant growth or the specific condition that haven't been thoroughly studied. And then formulate a hypothesis. By this condition, we can formulate a hypothesis whether it is testable or the relation between these variables. And then define variables. From this, we can define these are all the variables we should manipulate and measure by this such conditions. And design an experiment. How we by collecting these variables and data, we can able to start with the experimental design to test our hypothesis whether it is valid and reliable. And conducting the experiment, we can collect the data systematically and consistently, and with this analyzing data, we can find the significant difference between the groups, likewise the averages, variance, and the performing test. And then we can go with the conclusions with the relevant data on the experiment, that is main for the sunlight is highly needed for the plant growth is hypothesized, and the significant difference is found. And we can conclude with the communicate results with the presentation or reports or a publication. And once it is done, we can revise and review the further investigation of the scientific knowledge is iterative and new finding, and can lead to the revised hypothesis or new questions. Thank you. With this unit, we can find the how the problems are tested and how it is evaluated. Once the problem is evaluated, how it is identified, how the data are collected, and then once the data are collected, how it is defined as a hypothetical order or a pattern order. Likewise, the intentive thinking or a deductive thinking. Once it is done, we can go with the hypothesis testing with the researchers how it is truly acceptable or not. And then once we conclude with this data, we can start experimenting, and when the experiment is done, we can collect the data with this, and we can conclude the following values of the research values.